Hello and welcome. I'm Allison Heath, the Longevity Rescuer and host of the EMF Summit. I'd like to pose a question to you. Why do you think that we haven't won the war on cancer? So much money has been poured into cancer research, and we're looking at cancer rising exponentially. It's really strange, but have you noticed how many more brain tumors there are? What about childhood leukemia? When I was a kid, cancer was really rare. And now everybody knows somebody that has cancer or has died from cancer. It seems to me that something's gone really wrong. We're not winning the war on cancer. It seems to me from a lot of the experts that I'm studying right now that we're missing a link. We've been looking in the wrong places. Genetically modified foods, certainly responsible for cancers. The stress that we're living, chronic stress, raising our cortisol levels and our adrenaline, that's definitely linked to cancer. The sad American diet, where we're eating foods that are full of carcinogen, the cosmetics that we're putting on our body, and the personal care products where we're absorbing, as a woman, 5 pounds of toxic chemicals annually. As a man, 2.5 pounds of toxic chemicals annually. Even babies aren't immune from our depleted soil that no longer has the minerals that we need to support our health and immune system. Our water supply, which is full of antibiotics that have been flushed down the toilet by people or that have been used in agriculture. The tons and tons of antibiotics annually used in agriculture ends up in our water table. This ends up in our drinking water. Also chemtrails, where they're doing weather modification programs and they're spraying the clouds with nanoparticles of aluminum and strontium. Because they're nanoparticles, they can come in through the air conditioning, they can come in through the furnace ducts, they can come in through everywhere. And these nanoparticles are going directly into our brain. Our brain collects the deposits of this aluminum. We have many, many challenges to our health. With all the research on cancer, they still have not found a cure. And unfortunately, some of the people that have been able to heal people of cancer, that information has been suppressed. Politics aside, money aside, we may have missed the boat on one of the biggest reasons why cancer is so prevalent in our society. This is just beginning to surface in the public awareness. I'm going to be interviewing an expert in epidemiology, which is the study of disease and how disease spreads. He has pointed out how economists have found during a recession, cancer rates go down. You have to wonder why. What's the connection with a recession? And also correlated all the data all over the world as to what happened when we had electrification. You remember Edison. Edison gave us electricity. He wired New York with electrical power. And little did he know that he was actually doing something that was a double-edged sword. It's a marvel and it's a wonder, all of our electronic toys, but they're leading us to a health hazard that we never imagined possible. It's invisible. You can't taste it. You can't hear it. You can't see it. So it's very hard to imagine that it's really there and that it's really doing the damage that it's doing. But Dr. Milham, one of the guests that will be on your Vibrant Health Secrets, he examined what happened when electrification started to spread out over the United States. What he did was he started looking at rural populations before they had electricity and after. He was shocked to see the increase in cancer after electrification. This would explain what the economists were finding. The economists correlated the data. Every time there was a recession, there would be less cancer. Well, what happens during a recession? People are laid off. Factories close. A lot of the electricity that people are exposed to is diminished. That diminishment of the exposure is creating a diminishment in the cancer. There's a direct correlation. When we think of electricity, we don't necessarily think of dirty electricity. This is electrosmog that's carried on the electrical wires. When we think of our wonderful toys, our iPads, our video games, the computer, of course, all of the wonderful toys that we have with our iPhones and so on. But how is that all supported? You'll look at a cityscape and you'll just see tons of cell phone towers, antenna for radio frequency. They're creating electromagnetic radiation. Every single portion of the population is being affected, whether you feel it or whether you don't. And it's accumulative. The more you're exposed, it keeps adding into your body and it keeps affecting your body as we roll out smart meters and all of these different technologies that are giving pulsed microwave radiation. This is radiation that's just a very low frequency radiation, but it's creating chronic stress on our bodies. And you'll see many cancer clusters that are happening. So, for example, in San Diego University, there was a cancer cluster of brain cancer victims that all died, and they were in a room when it was correlated, the data. Their room was directly opposite one of those big towers that they have on university campuses. Young, healthy students were dying of brain cancer. This is a real issue, especially when we see that rise in childhood leukemia. Young people, children, who are often sleeping on a wall opposite a smart meter that's put on the outside. So check your house, see where your meter is, and so on. We have baby monitors that are giving off more electromagnetic radiation. These marvels, these wonderful inventions that have come to us are causing us incredible harm to our health. And Dr. Milham, my guest coming up, he feels that we're in for an epidemic of these cancers, of leukemia, which is a blood cancer of the blood, both adult and childhood leukemia. There are specific cancers related to electromagnetic radiation, and it's occupational as well. So this is something that Dr. Milham has looked at. He's looked at how the correlation runs between your occupation and your risk of having cancer. He's finding that firefighters have a very high rate of cancer. And you'd think, oh yeah, sure, of course they're going to have cancer. They're breathing in all that toxic smoke and stuff, but it's not lung cancer. They're having brain cancers, they're having leukemias, and it's coming from those Tetra Paks that they're wearing on their shoulder. And those Tetra Paks, they are a communication device that allows them to communicate with the other firefighters when they're in these big smoky buildings and so on and can't see to get around. Well, that's causing cancer and a high rate of cancer in that particular group. Police officers, the cancer that they're getting when they're using radar. All of these different cancers, we've been looking for cures for cancer, but we haven't looked at our electromagnetic radiation. We haven't looked at the dark side of electricity. We haven't really made the connection until recently. I'm gathering together these experts. Jerry Flynn is one of the experts that will be joining me. He's a retired military officer, and what his work was electronic warfare. He knows that the 2.4 gigahertz that we're using is affecting the human brain in a very negative way. It's the same frequency that they were using in their electronic warfare. Not to be panicked and not to be afraid. If you take the time to learn about what's going on, then you will be able to protect yourself. And if you're able to protect yourself, you'll be able to live in society, enjoy your toys. Don't wait until you have an illness. Join us on the EMF Summit. It's your health. It's the health of your children. Join us